Imagine sending the most personal, vulnerable message of your life to the wrong number. That's exactly what happened to Janelle Carter, a young woman whose world fell apart the day she discovered she was pregnant and betrayed by the man she thought she loved. But that mistake, that accidental text, didn't destroy her. It led her into the arms of a stranger, a man who offered her protection, hope, and maybe even love. But behind his kindness lies secrets darker than she ever imagined. Who is Lucas Bennett really? And will Janelle's choice to trust him save her life, or put everything she loves in danger? This is a story of betrayal, obsession, and a love born from danger. Stay until the end, you won't see the twists coming. If you love stories filled with suspense, romance, and shocking revelations, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and don't forget to like this video. And after watching, drop a comment below. Would you trust a stranger who saves you, even if he's hiding something? The bathroom felt colder than usual. The cheap tiles pressed into Janelle Carter's bare knees as she sat on the floor, gripping the thin white stick that had just turned her world upside down. Two faint pink lines stared back at her, sharp and undeniable. Pregnant. Her heart pounded so violently it echoed in her ears. The air seemed to thicken, making it harder to breathe. At 24, with no job and no steady income, Janelle felt like she had just been shoved off the edge of a cliff with no parachute. "This can't be happening," she whispered, though her trembling voice sounded hollow in the silence. Tears blurred her vision, but the lines remained. They didn't fade no matter how many times she blinked, no matter how desperately she wished for a mistake. The test hadn't lied. Life, unexpected, terrifying life, was inside her. She pressed her forehead against her knees, trying to think. She needed to call someone. Her mom? No, they hadn't spoken properly in months, and the last thing she wanted was the familiar lecture about responsibility and bad decisions. Maya, her best friend, maybe. Yes, Maya would listen. Maya always listened. But then another thought shoved its way through the fog. Marcus. Her boyfriend. Her partner. The man she thought she might actually build a future with, despite their ups and downs. He deserved to know first. Right? Her hand moved toward her phone on the counter, but then something stopped her. A gnawing unease, like a whisper in the back of her mind. Marcus had been distant lately. Shorter texts. Late nights. Excuses that never seemed to add up. With her stomach twisting, Janelle reached for his phone instead of hers. He had left it charging in her bedroom the night before after claiming he was too tired to drive home. She told herself she wouldn't look. She told herself she trusted him. But her body betrayed her, fingers already unlocking the screen with the code she knew by heart. Her breath hitched. The messages were the first blow. Dozens of them. Not from a random number, but from a name that sliced her open the moment she saw it. Brianna. Her coworker. Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. She has no idea, does she? And then, as if the universe wanted to twist the knife even deeper, the photos. Crystal clear. Marcus and Brianna tangled together in bed, time-stamped from last weekend, when Marcus had told Janelle he was visiting his father in the hospital. The room spun. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the phone. Betrayal didn't just sting, it scorched like acid running through her veins. She stumbled backward, pressing her palm against the wall for balance. No, 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 no. The man she trusted. The man she loved. The man she thought would be her anchor in the storm of unemployment and uncertainty. Was just another lie. Her stomach churned violently. She barely made it to the sink before she threw up, the bitter taste burning her throat. By the time she rinsed her mouth and looked in the mirror, she hardly recognized herself. Puffy eyes, pale skin, lips trembling with shock. She looked like someone whose world had just ended. And in a way it had. An hour later, she sat in the doctor's office, clutching a black and white ultrasound photo. A tiny speck floated in the grainy image, nothing more than a blurry shadow. But that shadow carried the weight of everything. Her child. Her tears came again, unbidden, but this time they weren't only for Marcus's betrayal. They were for the life ahead of her, for the crushing fear that she couldn't possibly do this alone. Congratulations, the doctor had said kindly, as if the word didn't feel like a dagger in her chest. Congratulations? For what? For becoming a single mother before she even had a career? For giving her child a fractured start to life? Her phone buzzed in her lap. She didn't even have to check the screen to know who it was. Marcus, where are you? I'm at your place, but you're not here. Why aren't you picking up? Another buzz. We need to talk. Stop being dramatic. Her stomach turned. Dramatic. That was the word he used for her pain? And then another message. This time from Brianna. You seemed upset at work today. Hope you're okay. The audacity nearly made Janelle laugh. Brianna, standing right there when Janelle's heart shattered, pretending to care. Probably enjoying every second. Her fingers tightened around her phone. She couldn't hold this in. She had to tell someone before she broke apart completely. Maya. Yes, Maya. Janelle opened her messages, hands trembling as she typed. Maya, I need you. Everything fell apart today. Marcus has been cheating with Brianna for months. And now this. She attached the photos, the pregnancy test and the ultrasound, before she could think twice. Then with a final desperate tap she hit send. Only she didn't notice her finger had slipped. The message didn't go to Maya. It went to Lucas Bennett, the quiet contractor who had fixed her broken door a month ago. Janelle collapsed onto her bed, face buried in the pillow, and sobbed until no tears remained. Hours blurred together. She ignored Marcus's calls, ignored Brianna's fake concern, ignored the gnawing emptiness in her chest. Her phone stayed silent. Even Maya hadn't answered. Until finally, 3 hours later, it chimed. She grabbed it, desperate for comfort. But the words on the screen made her freeze. I don't know who you are, but I can tell you're going through something really difficult. I'm not Maya. But if you need someone to talk to, I'm here. Sometimes strangers listen better than the people closest to us. Are you safe tonight? Her blood ran cold. Oh God. She scrolled up and realized the horrifying truth. She hadn't sent her most private, vulnerable confession to her best friend. She had sent it to a stranger. A man she barely remembered. The contractor. Panic shot through her. She typed quickly. I'm so sorry. Wrong person. Please delete those photos and forget you saw anything. I'm so embarrassed. The reply came almost instantly. Don't be embarrassed. These things happen. I already deleted the photos, but I can't forget how scared you sounded. If you need to talk, I'll listen. No judgment. Janelle stared at the screen, her breath shallow. This wasn't the reaction she expected. No mockery, no awkwardness, no invasive questions. Just concern. Why would you even care? She typed, hands shaking. Because everyone deserves someone in their corner. I've been where you are before. Lost, afraid, not sure who to trust. It's the worst feeling in the world. Nobody should go through it alone. Something in her chest cracked open. Against all logic, against the voice in her head screaming that this was dangerous, Janelle found herself typing. Telling him everything, the betrayal, the job loss, the terror of raising a baby without support. She poured out truths she hadn't even admitted to herself. And Lucas didn't flinch. His replies were steady, thoughtful, never condescending. You're stronger than you think, Janelle. For the first time all day she felt seen. She clutched her phone to her chest, eyes burning. She didn't know why the stranger cared. She didn't know if she could trust it. But for the first time since the pink lines appeared, hope flickered faintly inside her. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as alone as she thought. Janelle didn't expect him to write again. After she'd poured her heart out in that accidental message, she thought Lucas's first kind response was just politeness. People were polite sometimes. People said, sorry you're going through this, and then went back to their lives. That was normal. But Lucas didn't disappear. The next morning when her phone buzzed, she saw his name again. How are you holding up today? Such a simple question, yet it made her chest tighten. Nobody else had asked her that in days, not even Marcus, who had instead sent a cruel message. You'll regret cutting me off. Don't forget I still know everything about you. Janelle stared at Lucas's text for a long time before typing back. Barely. But thank you for asking. The reply came quickly. If you need to talk, I'll listen. No judgment. No judgment. The words sat heavy in her mind. Everyone else had judged her, her co-workers who had gossiped about her workplace romance, her mother who sighed and said, I told you he wasn't serious material, and Marcus who treated her pregnancy like an inconvenience. But Lucas didn't ask for explanations. He didn't pry. He just left the door open, like a stranger offering shelter from the rain. That evening, after another round of staring at her dwindling bank account, Janelle gave in. She called him. The sound of his voice surprised her. It was deep, calm, with an edge of warmth she hadn't expected. Hey Janelle. I'm glad you called. And just like that, words started spilling out of her. She told him about losing her job, about the way Marcus betrayed her, about the nights she lay awake wondering if she'd be a good mother when she could barely take care of herself. Lucas didn't interrupt. Sometimes she heard the faint rustle of papers on his end, or the low hum of something electronic, but he always responded at the right moments, quiet encouragements that kept her talking. By the time she hung up, Janelle realized her shoulders felt lighter. She still had problems, yes, but someone else was carrying a piece of the weight. The days stretched into a strange rhythm. Lucas checked in every morning with a text. If she didn't respond, he'd wait hours, then send a simple "thinking of you." One afternoon, he surprised her with something unexpected. "I don't want to overstep," he said over the phone, "but I run a business. A small one, but it's growing fast. I need someone organized, someone I can trust. You'd be perfect." Janelle blinked. "Wait, you're offering me a job?" "Yes," he said plainly. "Administrative work, scheduling, handling clients. It pays well. I can be flexible with hours if you need time off for appointments." Her first instinct was suspicion. No one handed out jobs to strangers, especially single pregnant women who had nothing left to offer. "Why me?" she asked carefully. "Because I've seen enough people get knocked down by life," he said. "Most of them don't get back up. But you're still standing. That matters to me." The words disarmed her. Still, doubts gnawed at her. What if this was pity? Or worse, what if it was some kind of setup? She told him she needed time. He didn't push. "Take as long as you need," he said. For 2 nights, Janelle wrestled with the decision. She'd sworn off trusting men. Yet her savings were dwindling fast. Rent was due in 3 weeks. Food already felt like a luxury. On the 3rd morning, she messaged Lucas, "I'll take it." Walking into Lucas's company felt surreal. The building was modest, tucked between a warehouse and a car dealership, but the inside buzzed with quiet energy. The reception area smelled faintly of coffee and new paint. A wall-mounted screen displayed security feeds, hallways, parking lots, city streets. The logo on the glass door read, "Bennett Security Solutions." Janelle swallowed hard. She hadn't known what to expect. Lucas met her at the entrance. In daylight, he looked different, taller than she remembered, with sharp features softened only by the faint smile tugging at his mouth. His rolled-up sleeves revealed strong forearms dusted with faint scars, the kind you didn't get from office work. "Welcome," he said simply, offering his hand. Her palm fit awkwardly in his, but she noticed he didn't grip too tightly, didn't try to linger. Professional. Respectful. It calmed her nerves a little. The first weeks tested her. She struggled to catch up with the technical jargon, the endless contracts, the flood of emails. But Lucas was patient, never raising his voice, never making her feel incompetent. Sometimes, though, she caught him studying her, not in the way Marcus used to, like she was something to claim, but as if he were assessing her strength, her resilience. And slowly she began to feel a shift inside herself. For the first time in months, she woke up with purpose. Still, doubts crept in. Late one evening, she stayed behind to finish some paperwork. As she gathered her things, she noticed Lucas in his office, the door slightly ajar. He wasn't working on client files. He was leaning over multiple monitors, lines of code flashing rapidly across the screens. On another monitor, grainy surveillance footage played, streets, buildings, even what looked like a warehouse interior. Her stomach tightened. This wasn't just security consulting. She backed away quietly before he noticed. That night, Marcus called again. She nearly ignored it, but curiosity got the better of her. "You think you're safe without me?" His voice slithered through the phone. "That guy you're working for, you don't know him. Be careful, Janelle. Not everyone is who they seem." Her blood ran cold. "How do you know where I work?" Marcus chuckled darkly. "I always know." He hung up before she could reply. Janelle sat frozen on her bed, phone trembling in her hand. Had Lucas told Marcus? Or had Marcus been watching her all along? The next morning, when she walked into the office, Lucas greeted her with his usual calm smile. But now she saw shadows behind it. He was her lifeline, yes, but maybe also another storm waiting to break. And deep down, Janelle knew her accidental text had entangled her in something far bigger than heartbreak and betrayal. Something that might save her, or destroy her. The first time Marcus called after weeks of silence, Janelle's hands shook so badly she almost dropped her phone. She had thought he'd moved on, found someone else to control, but his voice came sharp and steady through the receiver. "You think you can just erase me, Janelle?" he said. "You think some stranger can protect you from me? You're wrong." She froze in her tiny apartment kitchen, staring at the peeling wallpaper as his words sank in. Her throat tightened, but she forced herself to sound strong. "Marcus, I don't owe you anything. Stay out of my life." He laughed, a low, humorless sound. "We'll see." The line went dead. For hours, her mind replayed his voice, his confidence, his certainty. It wasn't a plea anymore. It was a warning. Over the next week, the calls became relentless. Sometimes he spoke softly as though pretending to care, You can't raise a child alone. You'll need me. Other times he spat venom. If I can't have you, no one will. Every time Janelle blocked his number. But somehow he always found another. The stress gnawed at her. She flinched at shadows and parking lots. She double-checked her locks 3, sometimes 4 times before bed. Even inside Lucas's office, surrounded by glowing monitors and busy co-workers, she never felt truly safe. One cold evening, as she left the office and walked toward her old Honda parked under a flickering streetlight, she noticed something strange. The driver's side door was slightly ajar. Her stomach dropped. She knew she had locked it that morning. Cautiously, she pushed the door open. The leather seat was slashed in 2 places, stuffing spilling out like torn flesh. The glove compartment hung open, papers scattered. Nothing valuable was missing. Her purse and phone were with her, but the violation made her skin crawl. Someone had been inside her car. Someone had wanted her to know it. Her first thought was Marcus. Her second thought was Lucas. She found him still in his office, hunched over his computer. Without knocking, she burst in. Someone broke into my car. Her voice cracked. The seat is destroyed, everything's a mess. What if it was him, Lucas? What if it was Marcus? Lucas's head snapped up, eyes sharp. For a moment, his calm mask slipped, and Janelle glimpsed something else beneath it, something fierce. Sit, he said firmly. She obeyed before realizing how automatic her response was. He asked questions quickly. Where was the car parked? Did anyone follow her? What time had she left for work? The way he spoke, measured, precise, reminded her less of a businessman and more of a man trained to assess threats. I'll handle it, he said finally. How? She whispered. His gaze softened just slightly. You don't need to know the details. Just trust me. Trust him. She wanted to. God, she wanted to. He had been her lifeline when no one else cared. But as he rose from his chair and retrieved a ring of keys from his locked desk drawer, she noticed something she hadn't before. The drawer contained not just files, but a glimpse of glossy photographs, streets, license plates, blurred faces captured from a distance. Surveillance photos. Her pulse quickened. Lucas, she said carefully, why do you have pictures of people? What is this really? He shut the drawer without hesitation. Part of the job. But his tone was final, leaving no room for further questions. The next morning he was at her apartment building before sunrise. His black SUV idled at the curb, tinted windows concealing the inside. When she stepped out, he opened the passenger door. Until things settle, he said, you ride with me. Janelle hesitated. The gesture was protective, almost gallant, but also controlling. Was she trading one cage for another? Still, the memory of her slashed car seat shoved her forward. She climbed in. The more time she spent with Lucas, the more layers she uncovered, and the more questions grew in her mind. He never lost his calm, not even when Marcus's threats escalated. One afternoon, Marcus left a note taped to her apartment door. This isn't over. Instead of panicking, Lucas scanned the handwriting, studied the paper, then tucked it into a folder as if it were evidence. Another night, when she couldn't sleep, she noticed Lucas in the office again, leaning over his monitors. One screen showed her building's parking lot, her car, her window, the empty street. Her heart stuttered. He was watching her. For safety, maybe. Or maybe for something else. One Friday evening, as rain hammered the city, she stayed late to help finish a contract. Lucas stepped out briefly, leaving his office door unlocked for once. Her curiosity gnawed at her until she finally gave in. Inside, the air smelled faintly of leather and coffee. On his desk lay a folder half open, papers spilling out. She glanced down. At first, she thought it was just another security contract. But then she froze. Her name was on the page. Her apartment address. Her workplace history. Medical details, her pregnancy. Her chest tightened. He had a file on her. The sound of the door creaking made her whirl around. Lucas stood there, rain dripping from his coat, his expression unreadable. You shouldn't be in here, he said quietly. Janelle clutched the folder. Why do you have this? Why do you know so much about me? For the first time, she saw hesitation in his eyes. A flicker of guilt. I needed to be sure you weren't in danger, he said finally. Marcus isn't the only threat out there. And if you're in my orbit now, I have to protect you. Her blood ran cold. In his orbit. As if meeting him by accident had pulled her into something she couldn't escape. That night, lying awake in bed, Janelle realized the truth she had been avoiding. Marcus was dangerous, obsessive, manipulative, unpredictable. But Lucas? Lucas was something else entirely. A shield, yes. But also a mystery built of locked drawers, surveillance cameras, and secrets he refused to share. And as much as she owed him for keeping her safe, she couldn't shake the fear that by staying close to him, she was stepping into a darker world, one she might not be able to crawl out of. The night was heavy with silence, the kind that made Janelle's skin prickle. She had just left the office after staying late to finish up reports for Lucas. Her belly, only beginning to show now, ached slightly as she walked toward her car in the dimly lit parking lot. She pressed a hand against it, whispering to herself, "It's okay, baby. We're almost home." But something felt wrong. The faint sound of footsteps echoed behind her, too deliberate, too close. She spun around. Marcus stood at the edge of the lot, his face shadowed by the streetlight. His eyes burned with a mix of fury and desperation. "Janelle," he called out, his voice low, dangerous. "You've been ignoring me." Her heart pounded. She fumbled for her phone in her bag, but before she could, Marcus closed the distance between them. "You think you can just walk away from me? Carry my child and hide behind some stranger?" His words were sharp, venom lacing every syllable. "This isn't your choice, Marcus," Janelle said, her voice trembling but steady. "You lost that right when you cheated." He grabbed her wrist hard enough to make her cry out. "I'm not letting you raise my child with another man. Do you hear me? You're mine, Janelle." Her pulse roared in her ears. She twisted, trying to break free, but his grip only tightened. Panic surged through her body. Just when she thought she would scream for help, another voice cut through the night. "Let her go, Lucas." He stepped out from behind a parked SUV, his expression cold and unreadable. There was no trace of the easy smile she had come to know. His eyes were sharp, calculating, and filled with something Janelle hadn't seen before, danger. Marcus sneered. "And here he is, the hero. What are you gonna do, Bennett? Call the cops." Lucas didn't flinch. He moved closer, his steps measured, calm. "If I wanted the police here, they'd already be waiting. Let her go, Marcus. Now." Marcus laughed, but there was unease in his eyes. "You don't scare me." "You should," Lucas replied softly, his voice carrying a weight that made even Janelle shiver. For a moment, time froze. Marcus hesitated, his grip loosening slightly. Janelle wrenched her wrist free and stumbled back toward Lucas. Without missing a beat, Lucas shifted his stance, placing himself between her and Marcus. That's when Marcus pulled something from his jacket. A knife. Janelle gasped. "Marcus, don't." Lucas didn't move, didn't even blink. Instead, he tilted his head, studying Marcus like a chess opponent making a foolish move. "You're not thinking this through," Lucas said. "One more step and you'll regret it." Marcus lunged. It happened too fast for Janelle to process. Lucas sidestepped with precision, his hand snapping forward to disarm Marcus. The knife clattered to the ground, and within seconds, Marcus was face down against the pavement, Lucas's knee pressing firmly into his back. Janelle stood frozen, her heart racing. She had seen Lucas defend her before, but never like this. His movements were too precise, too skilled. This wasn't the reaction of a simple contractor. It was training. Military. Intelligence. Something far more dangerous. Lucas's voice was calm as he leaned down to Marcus's ear. "You're done. Stay away from her, or next time, I won't be this gentle." Marcus spat curses, but the fight in him was gone. Lucas released him only when he heard approaching sirens. Sirens that Janelle hadn't even realized were coming. Lucas had called for backup before she even arrived at the lot. 2 officers rushed in, taking Marcus into custody after Lucas gave a clipped explanation. Janelle couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Relief and shock warred inside her. When the police car drove away with Marcus inside, she finally found her voice. "Lucas, what was that? Who are you?" He turned to her, his expression softer now, though his eyes still held shadows. "I owe you the truth, but not here." Back at Lucas's apartment, Janelle sat on the edge of the couch, her hands trembling. Lucas poured her a glass of water and placed it gently in her hands. "You're not just a contractor," she whispered. "Tell me I'm wrong." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You're not wrong. I started the company as a cover, a way to build something legitimate. But before that," he paused, meeting her eyes. "I worked in private intelligence. Covert security operations, surveillance, protection. My job was to predict threats and neutralize them before they could harm innocent people." Janelle's chest tightened. "So all this time, the way you knew what Marcus might do, the way you handled him, it wasn't luck." "No," Lucas admitted. "It was training. Instinct." He leaned forward, his voice gentler now. I didn't mean to hide it from you. I just didn't want you to see me that way. I wanted to be someone normal for you, not a man defined by secrets and danger. Tears pricked her eyes. Do you know how hard it is for me to trust right now? Marcus broke me. And then you came along and I thought maybe, just maybe, you were my chance to start over. But now I don't know if I can believe anything you say. Her words cut deep, she could see it in his face. He didn't argue, didn't defend himself. He only said, then let me prove it to you. Not with words. With actions. You and your baby's safety is the only thing that matters to me. Always. The sincerity in his tone cracked something inside her. She wanted to push him away, but instead she found herself leaning closer. Why me? She asked softly. Lucas smiled faintly, almost sadly. Because when you sent that text to the wrong number, you didn't just send me an ultrasound. You sent me a piece of your heart. And I couldn't ignore it. Not then. Not now. Her tears spilled over. For the first time in weeks, they weren't only tears of fear or sadness. They were something more. Relief. Hope. The days that followed were a blur. Marcus was charged with assault and trespassing, and a restraining order was put in place. Lucas upgraded Janelle's apartment security himself, installing systems far beyond anything she could have afforded. At first, she kept her distance, still wrestling with the secrets he had revealed. But slowly, she began to see his actions for what they were. Not control, but protection. Not manipulation, but care. One evening, as they walked out of his office together, Lucas paused. Janelle, he said quietly, I know I've asked you to trust me when I've given you every reason not to. But I'm asking anyway. Not because of what I can do, but because of what I feel. For you. Her heart pounded, the weight of his words sinking deep. She thought of the fear, the heartbreak, the chaos of the past months, and how through it all Lucas had been steady, unshaken. She reached for his hand. I don't know what the future holds, she admitted. But I do know this, I don't feel alone anymore. And that's because of you. For the first time, Lucas's guarded expression softened into something vulnerable. He squeezed her hand gently, his voice barely above a whisper. Then that's enough for me. And as the city lights glowed around them, Janelle realized that her accidental text had never been a mistake. It had been the beginning of something unexpected, something fragile, complicated, but real. Love born from danger. The soft cries of a newborn filled the hospital room, mingling with Janelle's exhausted laughter. She cradled her daughter against her chest, tears slipping down her cheeks as she whispered, Hi, little one. You're safe now. Lucas stood by her side, his hand resting on her shoulder, his usually steady composure breaking into a smile so tender it made her heart ache. He bent down and kissed the baby's forehead gently. She has your eyes, he murmured. And your stubborn jawline, Janelle teased through her tears. For a moment, the chaos of the past year felt like a distant dream. Marcus's betrayal, the threats, the fear. All of it had led here to this quiet miracle. Later, when Janelle finally had a moment to rest, she unlocked her phone, absent-mindedly scrolling through old messages. At the very bottom of her chat with Lucas was the photo, the grainy black and white ultrasound image she had once sent to the wrong number. She stared at it for a long time, a smile tugging at her lips. That one mistake had rewritten her entire story. Lucas noticed her staring and sat beside her. You're looking at it again? She nodded, turning the screen toward him. Can you believe this is how it all started? He took the phone from her, then gently set it aside. No, he admitted softly, looking at her instead. But I believe it's exactly how it was meant to start. Their baby stirred, letting out a tiny cry, and Janelle pressed her lips to her daughter's head. Lucas wrapped his arm around them both, his voice low and certain. No more wrong numbers, he whispered. From now on, everything is exactly where it's supposed to be. And as Janelle closed her eyes, surrounded by the family she never thought she'd have, she realized something. Sometimes life doesn't give you what you plan for, it gives you what you need. And for her, that was love born from an accident, a stranger who became her protector, and a baby who would always remind them that even the smallest choices can change everything.